discover the amazing transformation when a billionaire's twins, paralyzed and silent, reveal hidden artistry. Charlie and Lily leaned against the silky cushions of their oversized chairs, gazing at the flickering candlelight that danced along the walls of their grand mansion. The familiar rumbles of a storm outside seemed to mirror their unspoken dread. How different this night felt from the opulence surrounding them, a golden cage, leaving them all but forgotten. Their wealthy father, roving the world behind expensive doors, had left them living in silence, paralyzed not only in body, but in spirit. When the lights flickered and then vanished, darkness poured into their lavish prison, making the vastness of the room feel even more suffocating. The stillness wrapped around them like an unwelcome embrace. Frustration bubbled within Charlie, shoulders tightening in an involuntary response to his own turbulent thoughts. They had traded their voices for silence, twisted within the expectations of a life defined by their father's hidden legacy. "Do you think there's something in the attic?" Lily asked, her voice a delicate curiosity barely audible above the howling winds. They had often whispered about the creaky door leading to a long-forgotten staircase shrouded in shadows. What secrets might it hold? Her heart raced with a strange mixture of excitement and fear. They both digested this thought, knowing it could lead them toward something, or someone, they were not sure they were ready to confront. Finally, their curiosity tore through their hesitation. As they approached the door, muscle tension surged through them, each creak of the wood amplifying the chilling thrill. The climbing of the staircase felt like a leap into another world. Reaching the attic, the stillness enveloped them, thick and heavy. Dust motes glimmered in the faint glow of their remaining candlelight, illuminating piles of boxes. As they sorted through the rubble, their father's old journals caught their eye, with pages worn from neglect and filled with an outpouring of raw emotion. The words resonated, recounting his struggles with the oppressive weight of wealth, and his dreams of using art to challenge the very inequalities that boxed them in. Words like a salve to their festering wounds. Anguish morphed into determination, as they both felt an unexpected surge within, igniting a flicker of purpose. Yet battling this newfound passion was a rising tide of fear. Were they merely extensions of his unfulfilled dreams, or could they carve their own path beyond the gilded expectations? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they began to express their newfound voice through art, a flicker of freedom seemed to unfold. Yet, with every brushstroke, deeper emotions churned within. Betrayal, longing, guilt. The pressure mounted with each public appearance, Cada exhibition pulling at their identities. They feared being not just critics, but shadows. A constant reminder of a father whose love had known only the language of achievement. Time unraveled around them, leaving them at the brink. Then, the doorbell echoed, a sound they hadn't heard in years, the deep chime resonating with their anticipation. An unexpected figure loomed outside, someone from their father's past. His arrival threatened the fragile transformation they had begun to weave together, sending the twins spiraling into a whirlpool of anxiety. Could they survive as individuals in a world that weighed them against the legacy they had long sought to escape? The pressure rose to an unbearable pitch, the answers just out of reach. The tension in the mansion pulsed like a living entity, palpable and thick as Charlie and Lily exchanged glances, each second stretching on like an eternity. The sudden arrival of their father's former acquaintance, a looming figure from the shadows of their past, stirred a cacophony of emotions that churned within them. Hesitation gripped Charlie. while Lily's curiosity battled against an instinct to retreat, a familiar push and pull that defined their entwined lives. They had only recently begun to grasp their identities as artists, each brushstroke on canvas a reclamation of their voices. Now, a specter from the past threatened to redefine their narrative yet again. The twins lingered near the staircase, the attic's dimness an unsettling contrast to the brightness beckoning from below. They had yet to unveil their newly discovered artwork, the vibrant colors suffused with the weight of their intertwined stories, and now this unknown figure stood poised to disrupt the delicate tapestry they had begun to weave. As footsteps echoed through the hallway, drawing nearer, Charlie felt an urge to bolt, the instincts of fear urging him to hide the newfound symbols of their growth. But he inhaled deeply, letting the air fill his lungs, steadying himself against the impulse to flee. He had forged a connection with art, a medium through which he and Lily could express their labyrinthine internal landscapes, pain, hope, and a simmering desire for autonomy. Meanwhile, Lily's pulse quickened as she thought of their creations, artwork that had begun to speak their unshed words. Each painting articulated parts of their suppressed emotions, as if the canvases knew their truth before they did. The idea of exposing those colors to someone intimately connected to their father's legacy sent her heart racing. But perhaps this figure could also offer clarity, a bridge to understanding who they were beyond the gilded cage. The door to the mansion creaked open, revealing a striking figure cloaked in mystery. A tall woman, her presence commanding. Recognition flickered in her eyes as lips curled into a knowing smile. Charlie braced himself for a deluge of branded expectations. The woman's gaze swept over the mansion, stopping finally on the twins. And for a moment, time suspended. "Charlie, Lily," she began, her voice smooth as silk. "Your father spoke of you often. He struggled against a life that he intended to give you, one free of his burdens. I come bearing his wishes, or rather, his thoughts." Each word resonated within the spacious hall, clashing with the echoes of their not-so-distant memories. The mention of their father twisted a knife that had previously punctured their dreams of independence. Were they to be mere echoes of his notions of freedom again? What knowledge did this stranger hold? The repetition of years lost hung in the air as Charlie's mind raced. The air crackled with potent possibilities. Lily stood straighter, daring to question what was forming in her mind. What if this woman held the keys to understanding not just their father's legacy, but their own potential? But then again, what road lay ahead? Would they finally be able to mold their identities from the shadows of expectations? With emotions battling for supremacy, the twins felt the awakening resolve within. They had survived the silence, the encasing stillness. Now, in this moment, they teetered on the brink of unveiling their truth. The moment felt charged, a decision lingering delicately in the air. Would they confront not only the specter of their past but also themselves? Just as uncertainties mingled with anticipation, the woman's phone buzzed against the marble veneer, snapping the twins from their reverie. "I must warn you," she said with grave intensity. "Your struggles are far from over if you wish to claim your place in this world as more than a reflection of your father." Charlie's fraught heart quickened, the weight of the moment dawning on him. Was this the ultimate confrontation they feared? The confrontation not with an external world, but with the very essence of their evolving selves? Their journey remained an unresolved tapestry, threads still waiting to be woven. Would they embrace the new chapter unfolding before them, or allow fear to unthread the fabric of their becoming? The candlelight flickered ominously as the storm raged on, echoing their unresolved desires. The time had come to face not just their father's shadow, but an even greater challenge, their own inner demons. Charlie's heart raced as the weight of uncertainty threatened to suffocate him. The woman's revelation about their father had set off a storm inside him, swirling with question marks and insecurities. He had fought so hard to carve out a space where he could be Charlie, not just the son of, or the brother of. But now, The very fabric of that identity felt thin and frayed, and he sensed the looming threat of being pulled back into a narrative that no longer resonated with him. As he stood rooted in place, Lily seemed to sense his conflict. She stepped forward, her own curiosity cutting through the tension like a determined knife. "What do you mean by his thoughts?" she asked, tone firm yet trembling with an undercurrent of vulnerability. Her fear blended with a yearning to understand, and Charlie felt the electric charge of her courage spark within him. "There were many dreams he held for you," the woman replied, her eyes softening. "Dreams that he struggled to articulate, dreams he hoped would blossom outside the confines of his own life. My purpose here is to help you realize those dreams, but it will require more than just accepting them. It demands confrontation with your deepest truths." "Confrontation?" The word sat heavy on Charlie's tongue, wrapped in layers of anxiety. He had always preferred to navigate gently through rough waters, avoiding the jagged edges of conflict. But here, leaning against the banister's coolness, watching Lily's face renew with purpose, he felt a faint stirring within himself. Perhaps these hidden truths locked behind his own fears were the keys he sought, a bold expression sculpted through pain and catharsis. Lily glanced back at him, eyes gleaming like glass. They shared the same unspoken pulse of determination. "Is that why you're here? To guide us?" she pressed, seeking validation amid the uncertainty. "Partly," the woman said, taking a measured step toward them. "But also, this is about your own expedition, understanding what unearthed desires lie within you. Your father's shadow may bring the past forward, but it does not define your future." Charlie swallowed hard, grappling with budding awareness. Was it possible to redefine their narrative and shape it on their terms? Layers of fear were unraveling, but the tightness in his chest remained. The path ahead was uncharted, potentially riddled with risk. But with the wild flicker of hope a new perspective brought, perhaps it was the volatility that made it worthwhile. The shudder of the thunderstorm outside mirrored his inner tumult as he contemplated the implications of confrontation. What if this was a battle not against their father's ghost, but against the specters of their own making? Would stepping into the arena of their truths give them the freedom they craved, or would it consume them whole? "I'm willing to face it, whatever it is," Charlie said firmly, the hesitance uncoiling from his voice as he pivoted toward Lily, who nodded almost imperceptibly. He turned to the woman, determination igniting anew within him. "Tell us what we need to do." The urgency in the room thickened, her gaze unwavering as she met his resolve. "You will begin by confronting the artwork you've created, unveiling not just colors and strokes, but the stories behind them. You are warriors wielding paint, and to embrace your artistry means embracing your lived experiences. Only then can you truly claim who you are." Lily's excitement blossomed, infectious as it spread to Charlie, yet it simultaneously knotted within him the tension of what lay beneath those brushstrokes. Each painting was a window into their shattered and rebuilt selves, the vibrant hues concealing hidden pain. He sensed the dawning realization that this unveiling would not just unshackle their father's shadow, it would compel them to examine their own flawed reflections. With a swift inhale, Charlie made his decision. "We'll do it. We'll face what we've created." The woman smiled, approval threaded through her expression. "The time for silence is over. You are not mere echoes. You are the symphony. Play your harmonies." As they took a collective breath, a pulse of anticipation coursed through the room. Yet, beneath the hopeful horizons lay nascent fears, the reminder that confronting their truths might fracture the worlds they had known. But the fortress of silence they'd built, was it stronger than vulnerability? The path to authenticity was fraught with contradictions. The flickering candlelight, vying against the encroaching storm, reminded them that clarity often followed turmoil. As they moved toward their artwork, anticipation clashed with the darkness that lurked behind each canvas. Would they have the courage to embrace both the beautiful and the grotesque? Would they emerge transformed or remain forever entangled in the narratives of another? The moment of their unveiling was drawing near, pulsating with promise and dread. The resonance of what was about to unfold loomed large. Charlie's hand trembled slightly on the edge of the frame, stilled by the weight of truth, as the question vibrated in the air. Who would they become in the aftermath of revelation? Charlie drew a deep breath, steadying the wild thrum of his heart as he stepped closer to the first canvas. The chaotic strokes of brilliant colors before him whispered secrets of his past and carried the weight of his unresolved emotions. Each piece of art had been a catharsis during years of bottled-up feelings, but now they lay before him like exposed nerves, demanding examination and challenge. Lily moved beside him, her fingertips grazing the edge of another canvas. "Do you remember when we painted these?" she asked quietly, almost reverently. "It feels like it was a lifetime ago." "Yeah," he replied, his voice barely competing with the distant rumble of thunder. The memories were both sweet and painful, fragments of a childhood tinged with aspirations and dreams overshadowed by their father's looming expectations. Those paintings were their voices, yet they remained silent for too long. Could today change that? With a flick of his wrist, Charlie unveiled the first piece. Swirls of color clashed against one another. The chaos was reflective of his inner turmoil from the time he created it. A sense of fury and confusion had been channeled onto the canvas. This was right after I found out about Dad's affair," he confessed. "I didn't know how to handle it." Lily studied the painting, her brow furrowing. "It's raw." "Barely disguised anger," he admitted, trembling slightly from the vulnerability of revealing such truth. "I didn't want to feel it, but it was there, deep down," he said, his voice gathering strength. "I thought ignoring it would make it go away." "Does it help to see it now?" she asked, her expression soft yet inquisitive. "Yes and no," he responded honestly. "It feels like a part of me I wanted to forget, but now I think acknowledging it is necessary. Maybe it's time to stop hiding." The air thickened with an unsaid understanding that the past couldn't simply be erased. Transforming it was an entirely different challenge. They moved to the next canvas, an explosion of passionate reds and soft blues. "And this?" Lily asked, tilting her head as if unlocking the combination of buried memories within those colors. "It looks hopeful." "Yeah, well, I think it was when I first realized my own aspirations. Outside of Dad's vision of me," Charlie said, an ember of confidence igniting within him. It felt liberating to create something that wasn't just expected of me, to pursue my own path. The sound of thunder reverberated through the house as if to underline the revelation. In that crack of thunder, Charlie felt a surge of determination akin to a battle cry. His voice steadied as he continued. "I lost who I was, trying to be what everyone needed. Now this moment feels pivotal. It's like reclaiming something that was always mine." From deeper within his being, the fear clenching around his heart began to unfurl. There was courage in exposure, a risk intertwined with the thrill of self-discovery. He turned to Lily, who was enraptured in their shared exploration. "We need to do this together. Each piece we confront will strip away a part of the old narrative. It's about reclaiming ourselves from shadows of expectations others have set." "Yes," she echoed, her eyes sparkling with resolve. "It feels as though we're finally choosing our own stories." Emboldened, they grabbed the edges of their canvases and shared the stories behind each one, peeling layers off their experiences like skins of a fruit. They confronted their pasts, fear, anger, joy, all merging on the canvas of their identities. In the stillness between their words, a budding understanding emerged. They were not bound by their father's dreams, nor were they confined by the silence they had lived in. As they began to gather more canvases, Charlie felt the air grow electric. With every unveiled story, they grew closer to the essence of who they were meant to be. The weight of expectations that had once pressed down on their shoulders began to fade, revealing spaces for creativity and accountability that had been painful, yet necessary. But what would happen when they unveiled the final canvas? The one Charlie had hesitated to touch? The one that was rawest of all, containing truths that even he hadn't dared to confront yet? The next storm of emotions was brewing, and Charlie felt the tumultuous waves gathering around him. Would he be ready to face the final revelation? Or would the shadows of the past reclaim him? Charlie hesitated before reaching for the final canvas. It felt heavier than the others, not in a physical sense, but rather emotionally, a weight that threatened to crush him under its significance. The vibrant colors seemed muted now, as if the energy had been drained away, leaving behind a stark reminder of unspoken fears. "What do you think is on this one?" Lily's voice broke through Charlie's anxious silence, but the question hung in the air, thick with anticipation. He realized she wanted to understand not just the canvas, but him, an invitation to step into a place he was reluctant to explore. It was the gentle nudge he both desired and feared. This is the one I haven't finished," he admitted, his throat tightening. "It's a reflection of everything I've wanted to say but couldn't. It felt too personal, too painful." Lily stepped back, processing the weight of his words. "What if today is the day to finish it, Charlie? You're ready to confront it now." Her eyes shone with an encouragement that felt both inviting and intimidating. Charlie frowned, wrestling with an internal battle. The storm outside resumed its fury, rattling the windows as if joining him in his conflict. He could either embrace that storm and reveal the darkness that resided within, or retreat back into silence, a former prison of his own making. He took a deep breath, steadied himself, and slowly pulled the cloth away. The canvas displayed an incomplete scene, distorted faces, jagged lines that depicted struggle and despair, yet hints of sunlight ached to break through. It was a window into the chasm of his unexamined feelings about himself and his family. This painting symbolized his fear of never being enough. "I started it after everything with Dad got out of control," he confessed, guilt gnawing at his insides as he spoke. "But I couldn't find the words or the strokes to finish it. It's terrifying to reveal how I really feel." "But your feelings matter, Charlie," Lily prompted gently. "Don't let fear stifle your expression. This journey isn't just about reclaiming your past, it's about claiming your present and future too." With trembling hands, Charlie picked up a brush, the bristles coarse against his fingertips. He dipped it into a mixture of vibrant yellows and bold blues. Pain and hope fluttered within him, a chaotic tapestry of color battling for dominance. It felt vital, alive, each stroke forcing him to confront emotions he had desperately held at bay. "What if I can't get it right?" he murmured, hesitating once more. "Maybe getting it right isn't the goal," Lily suggested. "What matters is that you're expressing what's inside. Art isn't about perfection, it's about honesty." Charlie closed his eyes, envisioning the life he yearned for beyond societal expectations. Each brushstroke became a pulse of his heartbeat, a reclaiming of his truth as the sunlight he had long sought began to break through the darkness. While colors clashed on the canvas, they fused into something unique, a manifestation of his journey. When he stepped back, breathless, he felt both exposed and liberated. The image was not flawless. It was a raw reflection of his experience, a confrontation of his fears and aspirations. It demanded acknowledgement, yet it allowed him to see that he, too, was a work in progress, a living canvas shaped by each moment he chose to embrace. Lily stepped forward, her eyes wide with admiration. "It's beautiful, Charlie. You're beautiful. This is exactly what you've needed to express." He let her words wash over him, thoughts swirling within like paint on a palette. Yet, amid the rush of relief, came an undercurrent of dread. He had pierced the veil, but what lay ahead? Would he be able to maintain this newfound vulnerability? Would he be able to share this version of himself with the world, especially with his father? As thunder rattled once more, Charlie's heart quickened. There was still more to reveal, more truths waiting to surface. But for now, he had taken an important step. Would confronting his father, the architect of his fears, be the next stroke in this evolving masterpiece, or would it send him spiraling back into silence? Charlie stood still, his gaze fixed on the newly painted canvas illuminating the room. For the first time in years, it felt as though he could breathe, liberated from the invisible chains of silence that had shackled him for far too long. Still, a gnawing apprehension echoed in his thoughts, a volatile mixture of hope and trepidation. The moment had been cathartic, but had it transformed anything fundamental in him? The vibrant colors he had splashed onto the canvas represented something more than mere artistry. They were declaration marks of his existence, proof that he dared to dream beyond the painful confines of his past. He admired the contrast, the jagged darkness finding its way to the gentle light, a reflection of his journey to understand himself amidst turmoil. What about the next step? He wondered aloud, uncertainty creeping in again. He feared the self-imposed dogma that had ruled his life and the expectations that loomed in the periphery, especially from his father. Could he continue this budding path of transparency, or would he falter as he had done so many times before? Before his resolve could waver, the doorbell rang, shattering his reverie. It felt like an ominous toll, a reminder that reality was waiting just outside the safety of his artistic sanctuary. He glanced at Lily, who nodded toward the front door, clearly encouraging him to face whatever awaited. Taking a moment to steady himself, Charlie exhaled before peeling his gaze away from the canvas. He moved toward the door, each step resonating with the echoes of bravery, doubt, and expectation. As he opened it, the sudden burst of wind felt like a gust through his soul, startling him as he encountered the familiar figure standing there, his father. The man's eyes held mystery and judgment, a mirror of Charlie's tangled feelings. "Can we talk?" His father's deep voice bore the weight of years spent navigating a complex relationship, one riddled with unspoken words and unresolved tensions. Charlie's initial impulse was to retreat, the instinct forged over years of feeling inadequate rising fiercely within him. Yet the colors on that canvas were still fresh in his mind. They urged him to stand firm, to allow honesty into a conversation that could very well shape the future he wanted for himself. It was a tightrope walk between fear and liberation, a challenge he yearned to meet. "Yeah, we can talk," he replied, his voice stronger than he felt. He stepped aside, letting his father enter. A stillness enveloped them, heavier than the storm still brewing outside, but also tinged with an electric anticipation. As they settled into the living room, Charlie felt the walls closing in, a tightness in his chest reminding him of past confrontations. Yet the transformation within him pressed against that fear, urging him to speak freely, to share his truth. "You know, we've never really talked." His voice trembled slightly but held a new, defiant tone. The silence that followed was suffocating, layered with tension, as both men navigated a reality riddled with grievances and unmet expectations. But this wasn't merely a meeting. It was an opportunity. An opportunity to confront the past, the very thing that had haunted him. Charlie was acutely aware that his next move would define him. Would he unleash the full force of his feelings, the frustrations pent up within him, or remain restrained by fear of disapproval? Would he assert his identity against the titan of paternal expectation, or sink back into familiarity, the oppressive silence that had become his fortress? His heart raced as he prepared to unveil his truth, his reluctance to feel overshadowed by the necessity of self-definition. What words would emerge, and how would they reshape their relationship? The moment hung in the balance, charged with the potential to fracture or heal, to unearth a realization that could lead him toward the very future he yearned for. What about my art? What about those colors? He thought desperately as he grappled with his thoughts. Perhaps what awaited him next would reveal more than he ever anticipated, a confrontation of dual truths, his and his father's. Charlie's hands trembled with both fear and excitement, the battle for his voice entwining with the desire to understand what lay hidden in his father's heart, too. Would he be courageous enough to claim this moment, or would he let it pass into silence? He took a deep breath, the faint scent of paint lingering in the air, and prepared to speak as if each word was a brushstroke destined for a new canvas. The time had come to face, not just his father, but himself. What revelations would emerge from this confrontation, and how would they alter the course of his life? "What do you really think about my art?" Charlie finally asked, his voice steady yet tinged with an unresolved yearning. He had leaped into the abyss of vulnerability, daring his father to meet him on this precarious edge. Their eyes locked, two souls grappling with years of unspoken words. His father looked away, the silence growing thicker, each second amplifying the weight of expectation. Charlie could almost hear the pulse of the tension, and he fought the urge to backpedal, to retreat into safety. This was the moment he had envisioned, a potential turning point. But would his father engage with that vision, or remain encased in brick walls of his own making? I don't know," his father replied, voice roughened by years of suppression. "Art is subjective." Charlie winced at the evasive nature of the response. Subjective. It felt like a cop-out. The colors he had poured onto the canvas were more than a fleeting whim. They represented his growth, the fight against the shadows that had plagued him. "But it's more than that," Charlie insisted, feeling the heat rise within him. "It's about self-expression, about confronting pain. You have to see it as a reflection of who I am now." He watched as a flicker of something danced in his father's eyes, perhaps recognition, perhaps fear. The walls around him were beginning to tremble, and with each word Charlie spoke, he felt his own resolve strengthening. He didn't need approval to create. He needed validation to exist. "I grew up thinking you'd never accept me, that I had to fit into your world." Charlie's voice grew bolder, unleashing the truths he had camouflaged for too long. "I painted because I wanted to break free from those expectations. Isn't that what you always wanted for me? To pursue what I love?" His father's posture shifted slightly, a cue that perhaps his words were having an effect. They were no longer two combatants in a stale war. They were navigating the terrain of a shared history, the mountains of disappointment and valleys of love intertwined. The question loomed, could they reshape their narrative together? "Charlie, it's not that simple," his father replied, frustration weaving its way into his tone. "I wanted to protect you, to ensure you had stability. You've always had to be the best. That's the way it works." The boyhood weight of the unyielding expectations felt like chains once more. "But what if the best doesn't mean what you think it does?" Charlie pressed, emboldened by his earlier decision. "What if it's about happiness instead? About finding purpose?" His father shifted in his seat, crossing his arms defensively. But Charlie could see the flickering light of curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Could his father be feeling what he could hardly voice? Could they both step into the unfamiliar void that existed outside the expectations and definitions imposed by time? I think I need to see it, Charlie. See what it really means for you." The admission hung in the air, a delicate dance of understandings beginning to unravel. In that moment, Charlie felt a budding sense of possibility. He could breathe more easily, the chains loosening their grip. Yet the journey was far from over. The conversation could easily regress, retreating to an unspoken agreement to exist in silence again. He had to keep pushing forward. "Then come to the gallery with me," he suggested boldly. "See my work in the light of others' appreciation. Experience me, the artist." His father's brow furrowed, hesitation plastered across his face. "A gallery? Charlie, these are just hobbies." No, Charlie countered. It's my life. And it's time to stop pretending. We can't keep tiptoeing around each other. If we both want to change, we have to act. The challenge was laid bare, open for acceptance or rejection. Charlie's heart raced, a mixture of trepidation and hope beating in tandem. Would his father take this step into the unknown alongside him, or would they both withdraw back into their designated roles? As silence enveloped them again, Charlie felt the tension echo in the room, charged and electric. He hoped fiercely for a breakthrough, yet feared what might come if this moment crumbled into more disappointment. Could real dialogue spark transformation, or would it snuff out like a candle before dawn? Charlie, his father began slowly, and the weight of the moment propelled both men forward into a deeper reckoning. The next words held the potential to reshape everything, but would they lead to liberation or fracture? As Charlie held his breath, he sensed the critical juncture they faced. A moment laden with potential yet fraught with peril. His father's eyes drifted back to Charlie, a storm of conflicting emotions brewing behind them. "I can try," his father finally uttered, the words tentative but unmistakably a threshold they both needed to cross. The gallery's lights glimmered in Charlie's mind, promising a space where art transcended words, a sanctuary where the noise of expectation could be muted, replaced with genuine reflection. He needed this opportunity not just for himself, but for his father, who had built a fortress around his heart, afraid of feeling the richness of a life lived outside narrow confines. Having instigated this profound conversation, Charlie was resolute. He would not back down. "Thank you," Charlie said, his voice smaller but steady. He felt the flicker of a burgeoning connection, an ember igniting amid years of silence. "I can't promise that every piece will resonate, but they're all part of my story. I want you to see that." In that moment, he realized he had invited his father to witness not only the unraveling of his art, but the unraveling of generations' worth of burdens etched alongside it. Every brushstroke was a confession. Every color whispered secrets he had kept hidden for too long. The morning of the gallery opening unfolded with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Charlie spent the early hours at the venue, adjusting artworks, feeling the pulse of the place, the air brimming with anticipation. As he hung the final piece, he felt lost in both his artistic world and the reality of what was to come. How would his father react when confronted with pieces laden with emotion? He took a moment to close his eyes, letting the voices of doubt drown out by focusing on the quiet hum of his resolve. "This is for you," he said to himself, briefly tracing one fingertip along the edge of a canvas. A visceral connection reaffirming purpose. This was not merely about art. It was his declaration of freedom. Then came the evening. Guests filled the gallery, faces familiar and unfamiliar, all united by their appreciation of creativity. Each compliment he garnered felt like a quiet victory. His art had found a voice, and tonight he must find his father amidst this sea of validation. As the clinking of glasses and soft murmurs filled the space, Charlie felt both buoyed and isolated. He looked toward the entrance anxiously, every minute stretching painfully. He wondered if his father would come, if he was able to traverse the path from cautious observer to engaged participant. This wasn't just about them anymore. This was a chance to reshape their future. Finally, when Charlie spotted his father step through the threshold, an unexpected flush of joy and fear surged within him. His father appeared fundamentally altered, slowly letting down layers of apprehension under the warm glow of light and laughter. As he navigated through the crowd, Charlie held his breath. Would he approach the art with the same trepidation he had shown in their previous confrontation? Charlie watched as his father paused before a vibrant piece expressive of deeply rooted pain. A collision of colors that embodied both the suffocating expectation Charlie had sought to escape and the freedom he had discovered through expression. His father's fingers brushed lightly against the surface, and a profound shift seemed to ripple through the air. In that single, electrifying moment of his father's contemplation, Charlie felt a gaze that bridged an emotional chasm. Could this be the moment that transformed the decades-long silence into dialogue? Would they finally confront the truths that had both haunted and bound them? Charlie. His father's voice trembled, breaking the spell. I didn't realize it was this real for you. Yet just as hope illuminated a path forward, Charlie felt the familiar flicker of doubt simmer beneath the surface of his father's admission. What would follow? Would the words continue to peel back layers of vulnerability, or would the walls rise once more, fortified by years of well-practiced avoidance? As these questions swirled within him, Charlie realized that perhaps this moment held the key to rekindling a bond long since jeopardized. But would he be prepared for whatever revelations lay ahead? Only time would tell, and both men were standing on the precipice of a much deeper exploration. "Trust me," Charlie urged softly. "This is just the beginning." And with that, the night hung in the balance. As both father and son hurtled toward an emotionally charged conversation, capable of shattering boundaries or entrenching them further. The path was uncertain, and Charlie had taken the first step into the unknown. Would his father join him? Or would they hover on the brink, paralyzed by the weight of their past? A thick silence enveloped them, laden with unspoken words. Charlie's heart raced, a persistent thrum echoing in his ears as he awaited his father's response. Did the weight of recognition finally break through the fortress of stoicism they had built over the years? "Charlie, his father faltered, glancing away as if to shield himself from the vulnerability that hung in the air. This hesitation, while agonizing for Charlie, also carried the faintest glimmer of hope. His father was at least acknowledging the depth of Charlie's pain. That was something. "Dad, it's all right," Charlie encouraged, the softness of his voice a clear contrast to the tempest swirling within him. "You need to let yourself feel this. We can explore it together. Just talk. Please." His father's brow furrowed, wrestling with emotions that had been carefully tucked away. Charlie's unyielding gaze dared him to abandon the distance, to dive into the waters of their shared silence. The cacophony around them faded, narrowing the world down to just the two of them. Their shared history and uncharted future loomed over them. "I wish I could have understood you sooner," his father finally admitted, his voice strained with regret, yet layered with an unfamiliar tenderness. "I didn't know how to connect with this." He gestured toward the painting. "This part of you. I thought I was helping. By pretending the past didn't affect us? By forcing your dreams on me?" Charlie snapped, the bitterness spilling out before he could contain it. He quickly inhaled, his breath hitching as he reined in his frustration. "I want the truth to come out, Dad. Not just for me, but for you too." The moment felt charged, a tightrope extending across a chasm of understanding. Charlie sensed the shift occurring, his father wavering between fear and bravery. A slow exhale escaped his father's lips, releasing years of pent-up tension. "I didn't know how to see you as you are. Art seemed frivolous to me for a long time. I was wrong. I see that now." His father's confession hung there, fragile, an offering of vulnerability instead of the usual dismissal. Charlie's chest tightened in response to those words. Was it enough? Could he accept this first faltering step, or was he setting himself up for deeper disappointment? "It's not just about the art," Charlie affirmed, his resolve buoyed by his father's admission. "It's about me, who I am, who I've always wanted to be." The admission was a risk, one that could either cradle or shatter their connection. His father's eyes softened, a flicker of understanding igniting. "Then show me, Charlie. Help me understand." A warmth sparked in Charlie. This was it, the opening he had yearned for all his life. "I want to show you every piece, every story behind them. But Dad, you have to meet me halfway. We can't keep pretending." The flicker of uncertainty danced in his father's gaze. This was still a threshold. Deep-rooted habits were not easily shed. But something shifted in the air, an electric current promising change. Their eyes locked, unfiltered recognition sparking a calm determination as Charlie exhaled the words he had carried for too long. "Let's begin again," he proposed firmly, with honesty. The invitation was a lifeline, extending into the void of their past to forge a new reality. Could they weave their histories together in a way that diminished, rather than multiplied, the pain? Taking a moment to absorb the magnitude of the moment, Charlie watched as his father nodded slowly. There was something profoundly fragile about that nod, yet beneath it lay potential. Could the fragile threads of trust be reformed into something sturdy? A wave of emotion flushed through Charlie, blending hope and apprehension. Would this new path pose different challenges, or would it mark the evolution of their relationship into uncharted territory? As the gallery filled with the sounds of laughter and admiration from other guests, Charlie felt the burgeoning warmth of connection amid the chaos. This was just the beginning, and he stood poised on the brink of transformation, a path illuminated by the promise of understanding. Yet, as he turned back to the canvas unfolding in front of them, a new question surfaced, one he hadn't anticipated. What would happen once the truths began to unravel? Would they uncover not just the beauty, but also the hidden fractures that had shaped their lives? The tension hung thick in the air, a prelude to the revelations awaiting them. With the conversation hanging delicately between them, Charlie felt the ripple of anticipation and fear coiling around his heart. His father's admission, though small, heralded a monumental shift. "Let's begin again, with honesty." Those words echoed in the cavernous space, pulling at the corners of Charlie's vision, opening doors of vulnerability that had long been sealed. "I'd like that," his father replied quietly, the weight of the years resting heavily on his shoulders. "I've carried my own burdens, Charlie." The admission was a balm, slowly softening the edges of their existing rift. As the gallery buzzed around them, Charlie summoned the courage that had blossomed through the act of creating art. "Tonight is about sharing that burden too," he urged. "Each piece tells a story about who I am and how I felt in each moment. Let me show you." The resolve in his voice surprised even him, but it also ignited a spark of hope in his father's eyes. They moved through the gallery together, and Charlie found himself in front of another canvas, a massive piece that pulsed with energy, a chaotic mix of shapes and colors. "This is anger," he declared, "anger over expectations and the pressures I felt to perform, to be in your shadow." Each word fell like a brushstroke, filling the void that had long whispered of resentment. His father's shoulders slumped, visible signs of guilt manifesting in his posture. "I didn't realize how much I hurt you," he confessed, allowing the weight to settle between them. "I thought pushing you would make you stronger." "You didn't see the cracks beneath the surface," Charlie pressed, feeling an undercurrent of catharsis and confrontation coursing through him. "Pushing made me harder, but it also stifled me, and I felt like a reflection of what you wanted, not who I was." Each canvas unveiled became a testament to Charlie's journey, a personal map through his struggles. With each piece, Charlie infused their shared narrative with vulnerability, compelling honesty, and unresolved pain. Yet amid these dark hues was a brightness, an unwavering desire to be acknowledged as an individual, not merely a shadow of his father's legacy. "I painted that one last month," Charlie said, pointing to a mixed media work that contrasted bold strokes with delicate lines. "I wanted it to symbolize hope, transformation. It's about breaking free from the grip of old expectations." "I can see the beauty in it," his father murmured, his eyes scanning the vibrant swirls filled with the echoes of Charlie's triumphs and losses. "But I didn't see you fully, until now." In that moment, Charlie realized that their journey would be iterative. As they progressed through the gallery, unveiling each piece, emotions fluctuated like waves crashing on a shoreline. Somewhere beneath the surface of years of heartache lay the potential for healing, acceptance, and understanding. He paused before a striking piece, a deep crimson landscape contrasting with flowers sprouting in defiance. This embodies my fears and how I channeled them into creativity. I feared I wouldn't succeed, that I wouldn't escape the entanglement of your expectations. I didn't want you to fear me, his father said quietly, a tremor of regret lacing his words. I had my own fears, and I projected them onto you. I see that now. Amidst the swirling interactions, Charlie felt a sense of liberation bloom within him. It's taken me years to evolve and break free. What you wanted and what I want should not have been oppositional. But we've navigated that without ever addressing it, leaving us both anxious. What can I do? His father inquired, and the sincerity in his voice carved an opening for new beginnings. Start by acknowledging that we are both navigating this wild terrain, a place where expectations don't carry the same weight. I want to be seen for my artistry as you chose your path, Charlie offered, allowing the light of possibility to illuminate a brighter future. His father nodded slowly, digesting. I want to try. To learn how to be the father you need, instead of just what I think you want. As they journeyed through the remaining pieces, Charlie felt a weight lift. Each moment of vulnerability mirrored back into existence, unraveling past grievances while weaving new threads of intention. This was their rebirth as individuals, as father and son. Can you understand it's never been about the art alone? Charlie implored, gesturing toward the final unfinished canvas that still lay awaiting completion in the background. It's about understanding and respect in every stroke I have taken. His father stepped closer, his brow furrowed as he contemplated the work in progress. And what does the unfinished part mean? He asked softly. Charlie hesitated, a cascade of emotions crashing over him. It represents my journey still in flux. The process of becoming who I really am is ongoing. I wish to share that completion with you. A profound silence stretched between them, pulsing with recognition. When his father nodded, Charlie felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude. They both understood that the act of creating would not negate the challenges they had previously faced. Rather, it would give space for new conversations to flourish. As they turned to face the gallery once more, with its walls adorned with vibrant artistry, they stood side by side, a freshly reformulated bond that reflected not only the nuances of their individual identities, but also the promise of partnership and exploration. The foundation was laid for dialogue, for shared reflections over stories yet unwritten. Charlie took a breath, letting the moment saturate him. This was a transformative space, a deliberate choice to forge connection amid complexity. They would traverse the winding paths ahead together, catalyzing conversations that embraced their fears and elevated their understanding. Let's finish that canvas together, Charlie proposed with a newfound thrill. His father smiled, a bridge pulsing in the space between them, their uncharted territory rich with promise. Let's make it our masterpiece. With that, the gallery faded for a moment, replaced by visions of collaboration intertwined with honesty and bravery. They were at the precipice of a new beginning, reflecting a legacy embraced holistically, an artistry cultivated through unwavering acceptance. At that moment, Charlie achieved what he had yearned for, a relocation of the narrative toward authenticity and a sense of fulfillment in defining his journey on his own terms. Together, they stepped forward, embracing the symphony of their stories, ready to paint them anew in a vibrant world of possibilities. Now, dear audience, it is your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss these exclusive emotional stories of individual transformation. Leave a like immediately to boost our reach. Every click counts. Comment below with your insights and theories about this groundbreaking ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey of overcoming and authentic growth. Your support makes a real difference. Let's inspire one another to embrace our own narratives and together create masterpieces of our lives.